Alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sorry for the slight delay, but as you can tell from my voice, those who know me from before, I'm slightly sick since last night, but it was too late to do anything about it. And I was taking my medicine as I was leaving, so that's why I got a bit late. Alright. Today, inshallah, we'll talk about Ramadan. It's fast approaching. How many days do we have left?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Roughly. Yeah, roughly. Because we don't know exact, but roughly. And it's very important for us to talk about Ramadan before Ramadan so that we can prepare for it. And Ramadan is so important that if you study the seerah of the great people of the past, from the Tabi'een generations, they used to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for 6 months after Ramadan, that, oh Allah, accept the Ramadan that we have just finished and acts of worship that we have done. And then 6 months before the next Ramadan, for 6 months, they would make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah, Allahumma ballighna Ramadan. Oh Allah, make us reach Ramadan. So look at their understanding of what Ramadan meant. They used to make dua for 6 months, oh Allah, make us reach it. And then once it finished, oh Allah, accept it from us for about 6 months. So it's an extremely important time. And Ramadan highlights to us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control of everything. Okay, and He's the only one who can legislate. He's the only one who controls the affairs of this whole universe. How's that? See, if you look at it in one way, every day of the year is the same. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said no. Ramadan, the month of Ramadan, 29, 30 days, whatever it is, they're much more special than other days. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hadn't decided that, then all the days would have been the same. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides that sometimes some days are preferred over other days, some places are preferred over other people. So, for example, some places being preferred over other people. Sorry, places over other places. Give me an example.
Makkah, Medina.
Makkah, Medina. Okay, especially, Makkah and the Haram, where the reward is significantly multiplied. What about an example of people preferred over other people? Come on. The prophets. The prophets are preferred over the commoners. Within the prophets you've got the 5 great prophets, the Ulul Azm, and within that you've got the best of them all, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then finally, some days preferred over other days. Apart from Ramadan, what other example do we have? Friday. Okay, Friday every week it occurs. Superior to other days. So Allah in society, you've all got like non-Muslim colleagues at work or at school. They quite often will ask you, why are you fasting? What are the answers that you guys give typically? Anyone have any answers? You've never been asked, why do you fast?
Yes.
You've been asked, yes. It's the first thing. They go like, we're fasting for 1 month? Why? What do you normally say? What do you say?
What do you see?
Pillars.
What about pillars? That's obviously, Ramadan is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. So it's very important. But like, if someone was to ask you why, in the sense, they often look for the wisdom. They don't look for like it's being a pillar. What would you say? And again, please, everyone, this is important. We need to have answers for ourselves first before other people. You need to be clear. Because if you are clear on it, then you like obviously can help other people. But before that, you'll know why you're fasting. So, anyone have any ideas? Sorry? To like something to do with the poor, right? To like feel what they feel and things like that. Yes, that's one. That's one thing. Pardon me? For the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions at the end of the verse, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Okay, so it builds taqwa. Fasting builds taqwa. The piety, the God-fearness. It makes a person much better person. Because we are required to be aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything we do. Every day of the year. But more so in Ramadan. Because even as simple as eating and drinking, which is like a human instinct, even that we're not allowed to do, right? So you need to be on your guard all the time. And you don't drink because Allah said don't drink. You don't eat because Allah said don't eat. So it teaches you taqwa, which is, remember as I defined a long time ago, it is to do an act of worship because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to do it and hoping for a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then to stay away from something haram because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said it's haram and fearing the punishment that may come your way. So it teaches us taqwa. It makes us a better person. Now there's definitely things like, it'll teach us what the poor people might go through. And they go through it all year. That hunger, that thirst. And it makes a person a much better person at the end of the month, because when you start to realize, actually quite a lot of people learn the lesson the first day. The first day is the most difficult, and everyone learns the lesson on the first day that, oh my God, imagine how the poor people are going through. And unfortunately, by the end of Ramadan, people start to forget that lesson. Also with Ramadan, see, it's what? 1 month out of 12. So it's like the equivalent of 1 day in 12 days, correct? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't prescribe it as you fast obligatory 1 day in 12 days. He didn't. He did it continuously as a month. Now one of the great benefits out of that, now obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Hakim, so He's got lots and lots of wisdoms behind why He does what He does. But something that we can see is that if you change your life for a period of 1 month, then you can change your life for the rest of the months. Meaning, if there was some bad habit that you had, and then you stopped it during the month of Ramadan, 30 days, then that habit can now be said that it's not part of you anymore. Whereas if you were to fast 1 day out of 12, then before that habit is built into you, the next 11 days come where you're allowed to, well actually you're not really allowed to, but like talking evil or obscene language and things like that, you're not allowed to, but it's worse in Ramadan. It's worse in Ramadan. So people would quite often go back to the normal ways. Even though it might be haram, but they realize it's bigger haram in Ramadan, so they might control themselves. But if it's 1 out of 12 days, then before you build that nice habit, you got 11 days where people start to relax. But if you've got 30 days, what happens then? Your life has changed. And this brings me to the point of, there are two types of fasts. And this is very, very important for us to know. Because most of the Muslims only know the first type of the fast. The first incomplete type is to abstain from eating, drinking, and marital relationship. That's the one that people know. And alhamdulillah, I mean it's good but that Muslims are doing that, but that's the incomplete type. The Prophet ﷺ clearly told us that there is much more that we need to be doing in Ramadan than just this. What constitutes the full, the complete, the required fast? It's more than these three aspects. So yes, you leave aside your food, your drink, your marital relationship, but you also leave aside any other evils that you were doing. So if people were involved in listening to haram, you stop that. If you were involved in speaking haram, like swear words, lying, lies and things like that, you stop that. If you were someone who got angry and acted upon that, you stop that. So more in Ramadan than other times. So we're supposed to be doing this all throughout the year. You're not allowed to swear normally. You're not allowed to behave badly normally. You're not. But it's worse in Ramadan. Because then you are losing the complete fast. So if a person fasts, just staying away from food and drink, and then behaves very badly throughout the day, listens to haram throughout the day, then basically all they got out of their fast is that they were hungry and thirsty. It hasn't helped them at all. It hasn't helped them. And remember, one who does that, they've only benefited, like not eating and drinking, right? Which at the end of 30 days, it's now permissible again. But fasting is teaching us that the other habits become multiplied, so stop them for 30 days. And that will make it like a habit in you, inshallah. So then you don't have to go back to it. And it also builds good habits. So it's taking you away from bad things, and it's also building good habits. Such as what? Such as the night prayer. Taraweeh, or the people that get up late at night for tahajjud. So if you strive hard for 30 days, and remember for suhoor you're supposed to get up before the fajr. So that time for suhoor is part of your fajr time. Part of your tahajjud time. So if you for 30 days, you start getting up for suhoor, okay, then when Ramadan finishes, your habit is there to get up at a time. And some people might get up, for example, half an hour early. So that means half an hour, you have minimum where you can pray your tahajjud, as a minimum. So it's building nice habits. And outside of Ramadan, unfortunately, many people think of extra prayers as very heavy. But Ramadan, alhamdulillah, lots of Muslims strive hard, and most of the nights they're able to pray Taraweeh. Okay? That goes on for a long time. So then you realize that by the end of the Ramadan, that look, I can do this, inshallah, alhamdulillah. I've just done it for 30 days, let me continue. So It builds a habit such that you let go of bad things, evil things, and it builds a habit for good ones as well. And these you would not be able to achieve the same result if you had like 1 day Ramadan fast and 11 days no, 1 day Ramadan, 11 days no. That habit wouldn't become complete. Now, when Ramadan comes, now we're not going to go into the fiqh details of fasting because everyone knows that, alhamdulillah. But I want to touch upon like, what should we be doing? Or what should we focus on in Ramadan? See, Ramadan is a time you have to change your life. The scholars of the past, from the companions, the tabi'een, those after them, they changed their life. When Ramadan would come, those who used to teach people, such as Imam Malik, for example, rahimahullah, he was famous for this particular thing. He used to teach in Masjid al-Nawawi, right? When Ramadan came, he would stop teaching and just devote himself to worship, and the Quran especially. And all the other scholars, most of the other scholars did that. They changed their life. And Ramadan is a time that we need to give extra to our acts of worship. So we should prepare for it from now to free up ourselves in Ramadan. So like for example, shopping. Now there are things that you need to buy often. You can't stock up on milk now. But there are many things that don't go off and you can stock up now. Such that when Ramadan comes, your daily shopping or your every week shopping is much less. People who've got like a big freezer or a separate chest freezer or something like that, upright freezer, you can buy all your meat products now. Stock up on them now. Instead of once a week, you can stock up now. So you free up a lot of time in Ramadan. And those who have assignments at university or tasks to do at work that have a delivery date that's a bit relaxed, and that might be in Ramadan, try and finish it off now. Free up time for yourself. Because when Ramadan comes, you need to spend it differently. So what are some of the things that we should focus on? As I mentioned earlier, one is recitation of the Quran. Even the Prophet ﷺ would revise the Quran with Jibreel alayhi salam in Ramadan, and in the year that he passed away, that previous Ramadan, he revised it with him twice. And if you go back and study the seerah of the great people, they were so amazing when it comes to Quran and Ramadan. If, for example, somebody had a habit of finishing the Quran every 7 days, outside of Ramadan, then in Ramadan they finish it every 3 days. Whatever their habit was, and they used to finish Quran quite often, whatever their habit was, they did it much more than that in Ramadan. So Quran should be our emphasis, the first emphasis on while the month is still with us. So set aside time for yourself. You might need multiple times if you want to read a lot, which we should try. Because if you would like to finish 2, 3, 4 times in Ramadan, then you need multiple sittings throughout the day. That's the first thing. Another thing we should concentrate on in Ramadan is the night prayers. And for those who don't pray the sunnahs after or before the fard prayers, try and get those back as well. So the second emphasis generally is your prayer. So nobody should be missing the fourth prayer at all. That's outright blatant haram. It's a very big haram. So you should not be missing that at all. But if someone was missing the sunnah prayers, you now have a golden opportunity to work on it in 30 days and bring yourself up to a level where that is a habit for you. Take the Taraweeh. Yes, it's not compulsory. Okay? But it's got great reward. It's got a great reward. So don't do injustice to yourself by missing out on that reward. Every night, keep that time free. Keep your time free. Because that is one of the major things you need to get out from Ramadan. As I mentioned earlier, when you start praying those, it'll build a habit for you after Ramadan, and that habit would be tahajjud. That habit would be tahajjud. So Quran, the prayers, seeking knowledge. Seeking knowledge. Now, the first out of those is, when you read Quran, try and read it with meaning. It should generally not be an exercise in just reading from start to finish. Okay, so those who don't know Arabic, try and read with, try and read it with a translation at a bare minimum. So that way, you know what you've just read. And then if you end up in Ramadan reading 3, 4, 5 times the Quran, imagine that. That's like you've come across every verse 3, 4, 5 times within this short period of time. And the important things in the Quran, the important messages in the Quran will start sticking. And your recitation will be much better. Because unfortunately, a lot of the Muslims do not read the Quran except in Ramadan. So if we do a lot, it'll become very good. Then outside of Ramadan, we can keep reading. Outside of Ramadan, we can keep reading. And in this extra prayers and extra Quran, this is extras in Ramadan. So these are not the things that you can carry with you after Ramadan. That's why even the great scholars, they would do, they might finish the Quran every 2 nights or every 3 nights or something. But after Ramadan, they might go back to if they were doing every 5 nights, 6 nights, 7 nights, or whatever. So they would also relax a bit, but not relax to the way Muslims do it today. There are some who don't touch the Quran for 11 months. There are some who touch it every Friday for Surah Al-Kahf. But the successful is the one who reads the Quran every day. One of the great scholars was interestingly asked, how much Quran should I read every day? Do you know what his answer was? Did I mention it on one of the Friday nights? I didn't mention it. Ibn Taymiyyah was asked this question, rahimahullah, how much Quran should I read every night? You know what his answer was? What would you tell people if they asked you how much should I read every night? How much? Somebody comes to you and says, brother, how much Quran should I read every night? Or every day, sorry. What would you say? Come on, nobody has any advice? Nobody has come to you asking these questions? He answered, he said, as happy as you want to be. Such a powerful answer. As happy as you want to be. You want to be a little bit happy? Read a little bit of the Quran. You want to be very happy? Read a lot of the Quran. When I asked this question in another place, people said half a page, half a Jews, etc., etc. That's good, something consistent. But look at the understanding that the ulama had. And no doubt people before him have probably said something similar. But it's been reported. So, if that is the case, that the recitation and pondering over the Quran brings about happiness, which it does. So if that's the case, then imagine in Ramadan when you read more and more and more. That month is going to be a glorious month. You would not want that month to end. You would not want that month to end at all. And if that month ended up being 29 days and not 30, a good Muslim would be, a little bit. There are like lectures happening, because some scholars do give lectures in Ramadan, extra. So try and attend those. Try and gain more knowledge as well. Because that is a time when you're trying to build good habits. That's a time when the shayateen are chained up. So they're not there to whisper bad things in you. So use that time to do good things. Get yourself up. And one of the best ways to get yourself up is through knowledge. Because knowledge is what it tells you, this is allowed, this is not allowed. And if it's not allowed, it'll tell you it's like a makruh, or it's haram, or it's a big sin. And if something is to be done, it'll tell you, is it recommended, or is it obligatory? Things like that. That's knowledge. So you can take that with you for the rest of the 11 months. So it's a time for also gaining knowledge. It's also a time for being good to people, more than you were outside of Ramadan. So for anyone who had those bad habits of speaking evil, swearing, and listening to haram and things like that, you stop all of this. So that way you'll be stopping being bad to other people. And the Prophet ﷺ is reported that, it's been reported that he was extremely generous all throughout the year. Extremely generous. And then when Ramadan came, he was described as being like the beautiful, beneficial, flowing wind when it comes to charity. Imagine that. Someone who's already generous throughout the year, imagine what he became in Ramadan. And charity does what? Benefits other people. So we need to start being good to other people, either by reducing our evils that we've been doing to a zero, or if we were doing some good, to try and do more, or if we were not doing anything, to try and start doing something. So it's a time of being good to other people. Because we're not on this earth by ourselves. We're with other people. And so be good to them the way you want them to be good to you. So charity, as the Prophet ﷺ, showed us how he changed in Ramadan. That's how we should try and change in Ramadan. So for those who can, give charity often. So if you had, if you're going to give $1,000 of charity, and you space it out over $100, is that better, or giving it all at $1,000 once is better? Any ideas? Spreading it out is generally better. Why? You might have it. Sorry, one second. You might have a specific situation where 1,000 might be better because there was a need and that's going to pass right there and then. It's never going to come and it's a dire need. You might give it, that might end up being better than the others. But generally speaking, the 10 times 100 spread over is better. Sorry, you were saying?
It was a general, continuous thing, so it makes you a habit. And
Exactly. See, when you do this over a period of time, then it means that the shaitan has not had control over you for that long period of time. You've been able to repel the shaitan or even your evil self. You've been able to repel that. As compared with someone who's just like in the spirit of the moment gave heaps, then that person hasn't really changed their life. So that's why someone who can only get up and pray, 2 rak'ah of tahajjud, that's better than someone who might get up once a month and pray 10 rak'ah. And the rest 29 days, no tahajjud. So consistency is very important in Islam, because that changes the person. That changes the person. So coming back to the charity, or other deeds in Ramadan, we need to be consistent. So try and have some money set aside that you give. You give consistently. Try and be more generous than you were outside of Ramadan, exactly how the Prophet ﷺ did, and he showed us. So if you had a habit of giving $100 a month, whether it was 25 a week or whatever, try and give more, 200, 300, 400, whatever you can. And your example is the Prophet ﷺ. So that's another thing we should try. Generally good deeds, but also charity. So you see how starting to implement these things changes your day in Ramadan. There's one other important aspect I'd like to mention now. We're probably a bit late to mention it now. There's only 2 weeks left for Ramadan. Whoever can take try and take some or all of it in Ramadan. Because then you got the whole 24 hours that you can give to your acts of worship. Or at a minimum, try and take vacation in the last 10 days. Such that you can pray more and more and recite more and more. And if you do it all 10 nights, then you are guaranteed to have gotten Laylatul Qadr. So plan from now. Now I mean, quite a lot of you probably take annual leave and go back to Malaysia or Singapore or wherever. So if that's the case, then you need to go and try and take a subset of that in Ramadan. Connect it with weekends. Try and get the last 10 days off. Put all the effort in. And then try to do i'tikaf if you're able to get that last 10 nights off. I'tikaf is like, you could say in some ways Ramadan inside Ramadan, because there in i'tikaf you are inside the masjid, right? For 10 days. And there, even some of the normal things you're not supposed to be speaking about while in i'tikaf. So there's no buying and selling and trade, or calling people up about business, sell this, buy this. None of the worldly things. So that teaches you to concentrate only on the important matters and to be systematic, to plan. So if you look at a lot of Islam, it wants us to be systematic and people who plan. But Muslims, unfortunately, we have good training, but we don't implement it outside of the Islamic things. So even the prayer, you know, the prayer, like we line up behind one imam, straight line, and then you got Ramadan, you're being taught the system exactly on the time the adhan goes, you stop. When the adhan goes Maghrib, you start eating, not a second early. Look at the training we're getting. We need to take that to the rest of our life. Now there are many stories of how the great people changed their life in Ramadan, or how they implemented it using these major items: the Quran, the prayer, charity, and being good to other people. They used to be good all throughout the year, but they reached an amazing level during Ramadan. So if you leave out, as I mentioned earlier, you leave out your then what are some of the things you can do? You get up in the morning for suhoor. Okay? And it's not obligatory, but it's extremely highly recommended to take suhoor every day. Don't skip it. Even if it's like a sip of water, a glass of water, don't skip it. Okay, as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, that suhoor is what differentiates, one of the things that differentiates our fast from the other people's fast, of other religions. You get up and you take that. Whether it's a meal, half meal, a drink only, milk, do that. Then after you do that, try and attend the prayer in the masjid. And when you get there, you'll likely have some time before the prayer. Sit and read the Quran. Once the prayer finishes, based on the times that we have now, Fajr prayer, you'll have some time before you need to get ready for work. Use that time again in reading the Quran. When you're going to work, shorten your time. Be more efficient in Ramadan especially. So shorten the time that you need to get ready, such that the remaining time can be in reading the Quran. While going to work, whether you're driving or by train or whatever, listen to the Quran at least. Listen to the Quran. And if you can get those, I don't know if they're it's available in English, where they got like, a verse and a translation, a verse and translation. So if you get that, it'll be very beneficial, help you to concentrate on what you've just been listening to. If not, then at least listening to the Quran. And at work, you'll have, time for lunch, which you don't need lunch anymore. So that can be time for Quran. Or if you can have flexible time where, some people can skip lunch and they go home that 1 hour early. So utilize that. Utilize that. Basically, every time that you get, try and put it in the Quran. And the other duties that you do, try and do them faster. And if you start doing that, you would have made a habit by the end of 1 month that instead of taking 1 hour to get ready to go to work or university, school, you probably can bring it down to 45 minutes, 40 minutes. Because you built the habit over 1 month. So after you've come home, give as much time as you can to the Quran. And if you can, if it looks like it's getting a lot to you, for example, then, break it up. So you might listen to a lecture to gain knowledge, and then come back to the Quran. And the prayers. Now these days, everything is back to back. So before you blink, you got Isha prayer. But if you're able to, come early, then go to the masjid for the prayers. all the times that you get, whether it's 2-3 minutes before the Iqamah or a little bit after it, there's a rush, people are taking time to get out, do your dhikrs or read the Quran. And Ramadan is a great time for people who didn't used to do their dhikr to now start doing dhikr, and the ones who were doing a little bit, for you to start doing more. And some of the important adhkar are the ones in the morning, okay, after Fajr, before sun rises. Then the afternoon is after the Asr prayer till sunset, but if you miss it, it can be even after the sunset. And then the adhkar after the prayers, the adhkar before sleeping. All of these, you need to build the habit that you do it in Ramadan, such that you carry it after Ramadan. So your focus, that's why, remember it's لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ at the end of the verse about fasting, that is building taqwa. So you're going to go through, inshallah, 30 days where you're constantly aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the fact that it's Ramadan. I need to now not waste time. I got 5 minutes, let me read. You know, I got another 10 minutes, I haven't done my dhikr yet, so I need to do my dhikr. So you go through that training. You're always going to be thinking about what you should be doing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then you can carry that with you after Ramadan. Inshallah. Okay, I'll stop here, inshallah, I'll take any questions, but as I mentioned, I intentionally left out the fiqh aspects because people usually know that. It's more the fact that we need to prepare ourselves mentally and spiritually for Ramadan. That is the most important part. And to know the difference between that normal fast and the required fast. The required complete fast. And we need to help each other. Because if someone's got a habit of being bad, then even though the shayateen might be chained up, that habit is going to come out. And if it's a habit, you might not realize. So you help each other out. Brother, sister, don't do this, don't say that, don't listen to this, don't waste your time. There's so much of that you see all the time. And the obligation starts with your family. Okay? So you need to make sure people are doing not just the required, but the extras as well, especially in Ramadan. It's a time to, I'll go back to the start, it's a time to remove the evil habits, and it's a time to build the good habits. Okay, and start preparing from now how you can perhaps free up your time in Ramadan. You know, if you do something such that, you know, if your weekly shopping used to be 1.5 hours, if you can do something now to make your weekly shopping in Ramadan 1 hour, you've suddenly gained half an hour. Or we can finish a juz in that time. Or do some dhikr in that time. And then whoever can take the vacation, try. You will not regret. The last 10 days praying as much prayer as you can, reciting as much Quran as you can. Or if you're able to do i'tikaf, these things change the life of people. If done correctly and for the right reasons. And hoping for the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Alright, I'll take any questions? Yep.
Which one is more preferable? The person read there's an Arabic text to read, because in that can help with the reading, recitation, or he read with the translation that means that he might not finish up the whole by from.
Yeah, that's a good question here. Which one is more important? Like, if you don't understand Arabic, then you just keep reading, try to finish it, or do you concentrate on, the meaning, which might mean that you will not, or you might not finish even once. It's a tricky question. I've read like all sorts of opinions, and one opinion that was quite specific was that pay attention to the meaning, even if it means that you haven't finished it, because if just say Surah Fatiha, if someone understood the meaning of Surah Fatiha and then saw its implications in life, that can change their life. But if you end up reading the whole Quran without understanding a word of it, then yes, for every letter there is hasn't made you a better person because you haven't understood anything out of it. But the way I see it, and I've told other people as well, that I think, if we try hard, we can get both. We need to get ourselves into a frame of mind that we can do both. Meaning, we can finish the recitation once, and we can read the meaning once. But we need to get in that frame of mind. Now, you could, regarding the meaning, you utilize the time of driving or commuting into the city or wherever by getting those MP3s that have the translation after every verse. So that's not going to cover you that you've read the Quran, but that's going to cover you that you ponder over the meaning. And then when you do get time to sit down at home in the masjid or whatever, that can be when you read from cover to cover. So I always say, look, 1 month is a long time. Try. Don't give up that I can't do it. Because if you look at the lives of the great people of the past, you get surprised. How did they do that much in 24 hours? They had the same 24 hours that we have, but it looks like they did. It looks like they probably had 72 hours for every 24 hours. This is the barakah in the time. If Allah puts that in there, you can achieve wonders. There was a scholar, I'm not sure I forgot his name and when he lived, but like a long time ago, they averaged out what he wrote in his life. Okay, so it's like from birth to his death, he wrote about 50 pages a day, or 50 plus. So this is, and those days, once Maghrib time came till Fajr, you had no light. You couldn't do anything. They didn't have lights and they had to sit and write books and stuff. So we need to get into a frame of mind that we can. And it all should start now. Now is also a bit late, but you could have done a bit earlier. But even now, give it a go. Prepare for that month. Free up your time. Free up the time. Okay? Any other questions?
Well, I just want to ask you about Tarawih prayer, Most of us normally we have the intention to do the Qiyamul Layl, and you're supposed to have just one witir. And towards the end, people normally they sort of continue to the 12 to make it even, you see. So, are you supposed to not to do the Tarawih and do the Tarawih during the Qiyamul Layl time? The witir,
You mean witr? Yeah, the question is about witr. If you did Tarawih and then you come back and do Qiyam al-Layl, what happens then? And people get up and don't do witr when they're praying with the Imam. That's not the correct thing to do, because the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Man salla ma'al imam hatta yansarif kutiba lahu qiyam al-layl. So whoever prays with the Imam till the Imam goes away, then it'll be written for him or her that they prayed the whole night. Okay? So you need to finish with the Imam. So finish with the Imam, even if it happens to be, with the witr. Then you pray later on. And yes, you can't have 2 witrs, because if you had 2 witrs, then it's gone back to an even number. So then if that's the case, do the second witr, and then do a third witr. Because you need to make it odd. The important thing is to make it odd. Okay? But it's also important to pray with the Imam till the Imam goes away. So if you're someone who thinks that, we should pray 10 rak'ah of Taraweeh, and you're in a masjid that prays 20, don't leave after 10. Stay and pray whatever the Imam's praying. When the Imam's leaving, that's when you leave, whatever that happens to be. Based on this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Okay? Any other questions?
And with regards to Qiyamul, like we do in congregation, but
all the companions. So if this was not a prescribed deed, they would not have done it. But they all did it and nobody objected to that practice. So it's definitely part of Islam.
Actually, I think what Brother means is we have the Taraweeh prayer together, completion, and then they do it at last 10 days. Is that from the Sunnah?
Okay, so Taraweeh and then Qiyamul Layl at the night. Okay, this is just a terminology that people have made up. But otherwise, the night prayer is one prayer. You can call it Tahajjud, you can call it Qiyamul Layl, you can call it Taraweeh, whatever you like. It's one prayer. So the objective in Ramadan is to pray as much as possible. So and then to try and also pray